What's up, folks? I'm Odd, by the way. So, sewing. It's definitely not my usual forte, especially not on the channel, but it is kind of a side hobby of mine. I actually have made at least one successful garment, this long sleeve flannel, which I'm actually quite proud of, even though the interfacing wound up going backwards around the neck, but you don't really even see it, so it doesn't matter all that much. But when it comes to plushies, I tend to lean either very simple or quite frumpy. Poor Merlin here is falling apart literally as we speak. I need to fix him. But that, in his defense, most of the stuffed animals that I try to make are self-drafted or never completed because I always kind of lose interest at some point. I think that the major issue is the sort of 3D aspect of them, right? Like, it's kind of hard to grasp. Maybe it's because I'm usually a two-dimensional digital artist or something. I don't know. I'm not much of a sculptor by trade, obviously. But now that I have some experience under my belt and have made some stuff and feel like I understand the forms, I want to take another crack at it. But of course, due to my tendency to dive into the shallow end of the pool head first, let's say, I decided that I was going to up the challenge a little bit because I have these fabric scraps and they're denim. They're probably intended for the use of patching pants. I bought them. They're basically just cut up jeans from the thrift store. And I bought them cut up. I didn't cut up the jeans. They were just donated as extra fabric, which is always nice to see. And I thought that I would use them to create kind of a patchwork bear and possibly, if I can figure it out, clothes for said bear, so that we can get a full Canadian tuxedo Jear. A jean bear. That's my goal for today. Or for these next couple of days if it takes a while. And yeah, I have printed out a pattern this time on my nice cardstock paper so that it's a little bit easier to form to the pieces of fabric and keep straight and all that. It is the How Joyful Bear by Joy Kelly, so I guess in advance, thank you, Joy, if you ever see this, and I'm sorry. So, it looks like a pretty simplistic bear. It's obviously not a very simple pattern, but I am curious to see if I can actually successfully make this and also make something, I guess, kind of weird and fun in the process as well. Again, along with I wasn't able to find anything consistent in terms of results for like both pants and a shirt for a bear, so I might be drafting those myself on the fly, and we all know how that turns out usually, but I have experience, maybe I can actually do it. We'll have to see. I have some snaps and stuff like that too, so if I do wind up making like a jean jacket and a pair of pants, then hopefully I'll actually be able to close them, and that'll be cute and fun. But yeah, I think at that I'm going to obviously be showing you a lot of like cut up footage of my process of making this bear, and hopefully it looks good. So I'll hopefully see you when the process is complete. So, of course, we had to start with cutting out the fabric. Grim and Tulsi helped, of course, just so helpful. So helpful. I'm on my floor here, mainly because that's the largest surface area I have in my bedroom, which is why you might see me swinging my legs around just to get more comfortable. Trust me, it's way weirder when I have to work with larger patterns and fabric. Along with the standard blue jeans, I did use some gray denim fabric that was also in this bundle for variety in the face area and, you know, my own sanity. I don't know if other people would immediately kind of dismiss cutting fabric as a minimal part of the sewing process, but I'm feeling more and more like it's actually about as much of the process as, you know, actually sewing. It's a bit tedious and generally kind of a whole task. I actually took a break for the night after getting everything cut. That shit took hours. When planning out possibilities for an outfit, I wound up tracing out the original pattern pieces to try and get an idea of how the clothes would work on them. I figured that if I could just make a slightly larger but conforming shape, it would work. In retrospect, it kinda did, a bit. By the way, this pattern was way bigger than I think I expected it to be. For some reason, I don't think my brain fully grasped that a 16-inch plush is actually quite large. While still trying to keep everything consistent and wasting as little fabric as possible, I think I still wound up using like 2 pairs of pants worth of leg panels for everything. We're in a different place! Gasp! I work in the living room to sew, so if you see animals or people or just general life moving around, that's why. It's where people live. I didn't want to have to sew on the floor, which I have totally done before, but I figured it just wouldn't bode well for this. The first and probably most complicated part of this pattern is the head. Now, the article for sewing this pattern did mention that it was intermediate, but I really feel like it was kind of missing some key visuals and steps. Like, at one point it just says, sew the muzzle. And from previous experience, I kind of gathered that the way to sew it on would probably be the kind of wonky way of doing curves, which is like, right sides together, they're kind of backwards. So you have to pin everything in place just to get it to conform to the right shape. Some steps just kind of felt missing too, like how it says to sew in the ears, which I totally did backwards a few times and that's on me, but not how to secure the other end. I will say proudly that I think I did kind of intuit it, but I did wind up looking it up and I'm so glad for video tutorials. Big props to Emily Louise Watson's straightforward tutorial on this. If you actually want to see how to make this pattern for your own Jear purposes and otherwise, I'll link the original article and her video. But yeah, you just kind of fold the ears down to match the front side of the seam like little dog ears, then sew them on with the back half of the head. I went for some nice giant safety eyes and figured, hey, I have some safety noses too, why not pop on one of those instead of having to do more sewing or embroidery? Apparently the range I have is quite tiny by comparison. But you know what? I like tiny nose. Tiny nose stays. Then we move on to the body, which was pretty straightforward by comparison to all the little bits to worry about on the head. After all that was done, it was just a matter of sewing halves together and turning everything inside out. Then, of course, we needed a little pair of jeans. They wound up turning out more like trousers in the end, and you'll see what I mean. I have footage of me folding the cups, but I didn't really even wind up doing those. Oops. Hi. It's 3 a.m. So this is Jear. As you can see, I actually did make him a pair of pants. This is my problem with sewing, mind you, is that I guess my problem isn't with sewing. It's sewing's problem with me. I don't know how to pace myself. And so I spend all of this time looking at the fact that I'm making like so much progress on a project and I don't want to put it down. And then it's like 10 hours later and my hands hurt. I have a 90% finished object, and then I just tend to either forget about it or finish it. And I guess in this case I did actually finish it, so that's great. Yeah, I decided to forego the coat for now, mainly because, like, I have completely worn myself out, and also, like, when I made the pants I realized how difficult of a prospect actually making a coat would be. I've made a sleeved shirt before, and it is not an easy task, and I don't think that I would be able to be up for that. But yeah, I made Jear, and he has pants, he has little jeans. I did some teddy bear tailoring. They're not perfect by any measure. I didn't really record myself. I think I recorded myself doing a little bit of the, like, measuring for, like, the little seams here and stuff like that, but I didn't do most of it because I had no idea what I was doing. I think I know how pants work now a little bit better. Not going to be making my own pants anytime soon. In fact, I think I tried that once and it didn't end well, so not going to be doing that, but I did make Jear. He's interesting because, like, obviously he's not very cuddly in a, like, stuffed animal way of, like, you know, soft and, like, actually like an animal, but it's an interesting kind of, like, nostalgic tactility, like a pair of old jeans, you know, like a good pair of, like, thick old denim jeans, and it's very soothing to me. He's very smooth. Obviously he's not perfect. He's a little janky around some of the areas where I had to hand sew, like the neck and such like that. It's going to be a little bit rough around the edges, but hey, nothing homemade is any fun if it doesn't have a little bit of that, like, flair to it, right? That I guess kind of amateurish flair to it, that human-made flair, let's say. The pants were an interesting process because what I wound up doing was actually sort of, so you see, like, the seam here and stuff like that, and these thicker areas where I had to sew over these, is I didn't necessarily hand stitch, but what I did is I went in kind of manually with the sewing machine just to make sure that that needle was actually puncturing through. I, like, gave it a little bit more, like, slow torque, because obviously, like, the motor itself needs to be running pretty fast to get that pressure, but that can break the needle. So I just started cranking the little wheel on the side of the sewing machine, kind of run through those thicker areas and get, like, I guess a machine stitch look without, you know, I guess necessarily using the machine, and also without destroying my hands, which hurt, by the way. I did a lot of hand stitching, some with embroidery thread, and obviously this is hard to sew through. And yeah, my hands hurt really bad right now. Everything kind of hurts right now because I stayed up until 3 a.m. sewing. And, like, you know, don't worry too much about my sleep schedule. It's always been crap, but it's a long time to spend sewing. I don't really remember when I started, but I'm pretty sure it was still a reasonable hour of the, like, evening. Albeit I did take breaks. I just still kind of spent most of my time hyper-focused on this guy. But I'm happy. Even though it was a hard thing to do, I think that it's rewarding to have something be so, like, difficult and, like, actually turn out well, because I've had my struggles with sewing where it's like it's been hard and I haven't gotten anything out of it, and that's always disheartening. It's part of the learning process, but it's not one that I'm great at. So I don't know. I'm happy to actually have something, and probably the most, like, tangible plush that I've ever made. I guess plush is being a little bit overzealous. my Josh. Oh my gosh. I'm so tired. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and watching my process of possibly slowly going insane making the Jean Bear. And yeah, check out my other, you know, less possibly manic explorations into art challenges on my channel. Subscribe if you want to see more weirdness, and yeah, let me know in the comments if you love Jear, what other things you think you'd like to see me do. Probably not sewing for a good while. Other than that, regardless, I'll see y'all next time.